So here we've made some garlic scape butter. So it would be like your garlic butter you put on bread to have with pizza or to have with pasta or something like that. We put about a half a pound of butter. Real butter works best, but you could use whatever you want. Along with probably about 10 or 12 garlic scapes, and I'll just show you those in a second. We put the garlic scape, chopped them up, put them in here, pulsed them a bit, added the butter, and just mixed the whole thing together until it makes this lovely little agglomeration there. This was in the freezer. You can put it into a roll, because this butter is thick. Put it into a roll it up, freeze it, slice it to make it easier, and then freeze it again. You can put it in ice cube trays, or you can do pretty much whatever you want with it. Then you can get it out, put it onto bread or do whatever, put it into your cooking. You could use it to when you're making stir fries or something like that. You could use it as your butter to start with. Pause. This is a garlic scape. It comes from the garlic plant. This is actually the flower of the plant. You can eat it from end to end. This is the flower. If it were left on the plant, it would make tiny little individual garlic bulbs, which can be planted, but it takes years to get a decent sized garlic out. Garlic, usually when you get it in the store from your food box, it comes in a bulb like this, and each individual, inside each bulb is a bunch of individual cloves. These cloves are wrapped up in paper, and it's a fairly simple matter of breaking them apart for your recipe and just taking off that little layer of paper. You can use a knife or whatever you like. This one's coming off quite easily. So your garlic scape for this recipe, the garlic butter, and the one we're going to make with basil, basically you take your scape, you chop it up. I didn't put in this little piece of the flour. It is edible, but I didn't want it. And you just chop it up into pieces like that. If you get your garlic scapes, I find they'll store weeks and weeks and weeks in the refrigerator. Make sure they're thoroughly dry. Put them in a Ziploc bag. I usually squeeze all the air out, and I just store them in my fridge. If they're dry, they're less likely to rot, and they will keep a very long time. Clean out my food processor because the other recipe is going to be something similar, and it's going to be still have garlic scapes in it, so I figured it's not worth the effort. This recipe calls for 3 cloves of garlic. It's a pesto, a basil garlic pesto. I'm just going to put my scapes in instead, and the amount varies. 1 garlic clove is about 1.5 in volume to the garlic scapes. The garlic scapes are a lot milder than the cloves. And so this is probably 6 or 7 cloves, garlic scapes in here. And I'm going to put the lid on and just pulse it a little bit, then add the other stuff. This is just going to break them up a bit more. The other ingredients in this is about 2 cups of basil. Now basil, if you get basil from the grocery store or your vegetable box, it's easy to store. This was just stored. Was picked 5 days ago. Store it in water. When you get it home, snip the bottoms of the stem off so it's nice clean cut. Make sure your leaves are washed and dried, and then leave it in the water. This is kept beautifully. As you can see, it's nice and fresh. So we've taken the leaves, and this is about 2 cups of leaves. I'm going to add them to this. And a pesto can be used in pasta, even if you want it as a salad dressing, any kind of cooking. It's a very versatile thing. And again, this can be frozen to keep your flavor of your, preserve the flavor of your scapes and your basil. As you can see, that is mixed in nicely, all but that one leaf. almost that it's mixed in nicely. Spatula will help clean the edges and push everything down. Just watch out for your blade on the bottom. Like I said, I didn't wash this because it's basically the same ingredients, so just more in this recipe. Okay, now the other ingredients are some nuts, pine nuts, it's about 1/3 of a cup of pine nuts, and this is actually walnuts, and 1/2 a cup of Parmesan cheese. You can use any kind of cheese. Romano is good too if you like a really strong flavor. And these go in here, and I'll mix them again. And your next ingredient, I'm going to wipe this down again. Your next ingredient is oil. You can use any kind of oil. A lot of people use olive oil, but any nice light tasting oil will work fine for what your tastes are. Here's the oil. And the recipe calls for about 1/2 a cup. I won't put it all in. And the recipes have amounts, but this is something you can add more or less of whatever you want. It really depends on your likes. And this may need a bit more oil, and it may not. Say there was a bit of butter in there, but it smells good. So that's probably about the right consistency that you will want. So I wouldn't add any more. I'm just going to stir it up a bit more. And this can also be put into ice cube trays or any kind of little containers, and it can be frozen.